Good morning, sophomores, or good afternoon, depending on when you're watching this. Happy Friday. Welcome to the final lesson for week 7, and we are on lesson 33. Let's get started. Why did the mushroom go to the party? Because he was a fun guy. Get it, like fun guy, but a fun guy like a mushroom. As you know, we're on day 4. The video you should be watching right now is called ELA G10W7L33. No surprise that we're reading the same text that we've been reading all week. And today you're going to actually work on some research of your own and complete some observations and reflections. And then when you get down to lesson 33, read the description of the materials so you know exactly what you have to have in front of you for today. The learning target for today is I can conduct research on advertisements to analyze for patterns and trends and techniques. I'm so excited for today. You're going to actually do your own research with advertisements that you find, and you're going to walk away today with more knowledge on whether or not advertisements actually are trying to manipulate you in a way, in my opinion. So I think you'll enjoy it. Let's talk about the Read, Think, Talk, Write protocol for today. For the Read section, you're going to search for and select 2 advertisements, TV commercials, social media pop-ups, newspaper or magazine ads, etc. And you're going to make as many observations as you can about each of the advertisements. You're going to use the criteria listed in the note catcher to drive your observations. You will have to review these advertisements more than once, so make sure you select advertisements that you can view again. So you're going to choose any advertisement you want. You have to select 2. And it gives you examples of TV commercials, social media pop-ups, newspaper, or magazine ads. But it's important to remember that you have to view these advertisements over and over again. So if you're picking a commercial, make sure it's a commercial that you can pause and come back to, or maybe you can find the commercial on YouTube. You don't want to watch something on TV once and then you'll never see that commercial again because you won't be able to complete any of the activities today if that's the case. So you're going to find 2 advertisements that you can view more than once, and you're going to make observations about the advertisements, but use the criteria in the note catcher to drive your observations. I'll show you that in a second. For the Think section, so after making initial observations of the advertisements, think about the following questions. Were the advertisements trying to suggest that buying the products will lead to more happiness? Do you think they will be more effective with kids or adults? Why? So you really got to determine were those advertisements trying to suggest that if you buy that product, it will lead to more happiness? And do you think that the advertisement will be more effective with kids or adults? Why or why not? Or just why? And then this is the note catcher that I was talking about. So we'll go over this in more detail, but it actually gives you 4 different things to think about, guiding questions to think about when you're analyzing your advertisements. For the talk section today, you're going to talk with someone about the following questions. Which of the 2 advertisements was more effective? Which of the 2 advertisements did you find least effective, and why? And then for the writing section, you're going to complete a quick write for the following question. What would you change about the least effective advertisement to make it more effective, and why? And you're going to use the prompts on the note catcher to support you. There's prompts in the note catcher, as you see here, that will get you thinking about what you could do to make the least effective advertisement more effective. For the closing today, you're going to share your quick write with someone and tell them why you chose to focus on the advertisement that you did. And then, as always, read a book for 20 minutes and document your reading in the reading log. So the model today is going to be around observations on advertisements. I know we already went through the read and think parts a little bit earlier, but I want to make sure I go over just a few more things with you so everyone's clear on what has to get done for today. So for the read section, you have to select 2 advertisements and make as many observations as you can about these advertisements, and use the criteria listed in the note catcher to drive your observations. And again, it has to be advertisements that you can view more than once. So let's talk about what these criteria are in the note catcher. So when you go to the note catcher, you'll see 4 criteria listed. We're going to go through each one and just talk through what it means, just so everyone's on the same page. So number 1, what was the advertisement selling or marketing? So you should really think through what specific thing was the advertisement selling or marketing. It doesn't always have to be, like a product. And then you could be selling a service, could be selling information or an idea. So you really got to figure out what actually is being sold or marketed in the advertisement. Number 2, what emotions did the advertisement evoke? So like as you are watching the advertisement or reading it, what emotion do you feel? What emotions do you feel? And there's some examples here: anger, happiness, sadness, frustration. And it may be different for each individual person, but you're really just viewing this from your perspective. And you also want to think about, you can think about how other people would view this. Like you'll see in the example I'm going to show you in a second, I'm thinking about like how it makes me feel, but I'm also thinking about like how it can make other people feel too. And that's called a strong analysis, because you put yourself in other people's shoes to think about what they think about things. Number 3, what techniques did the advertisement use? You don't necessarily need to know like the technical terms that that you'd find in like an advertising class, but just like talk through some techniques that you found from your perspective that the advertisement used. Some examples here, like statistics and facts. That's a technique, because if they use that inside the advertisement, they're obviously trying to like appeal to your logos and help you realize that this is like a strong purchase or a wise purchase. Humor, are they trying to make you laugh? Are they trying to build empathy? That's a technique. Irony is something like funny and ironic, so you wouldn't think that this would be true, and that's like drawing you in more. Whatever it may be, you have to just think through the techniques that the advertisement is using. And then also think through who is the target audience. Who is this meant for? Think about age. Is it meant for kids, young adults, elderly people? Think about gender. Think about race, religion, marital status, meaning if you're married, single, divorced. Location. Is it specifically targeted towards a location? So like people that live in this area, in this part of the world, or is it like a broader audience? So think about like who the target audience is for the advertisement, because that really does impact a lot of things. So then back to the lesson, the think part. You have to think about the following questions and then write your answer on the note catcher. Were the advertisements trying to suggest that buying the products will lead to more happiness? Do you think they will be more effective with kids or adults? Why? So if you basically go through these 4 questions that I went over a second ago, when you're analyzing both your advertisements, you'll be able to answer this question of like, were the advertisements trying to basically lead you to believe that you'll become more happy if you buy the product or service? And do you think that this was more targeted towards kids or adults, and why? Okay, so I put all those questions into a little graphic organizer. You can feel free to do the same thing. And I'm going to show you in a second an advertisement that I found. A quick backstory to this advertisement. Like, I wanted to make it relevant to what we're all experiencing today. I know that all of us are using Teams, hopefully, and for some of you, it may be the first time you've ever really used Teams. So I wanted the advertisement to be on Microsoft Teams. I thought that was pretty fitting, since something that we're all becoming more familiar with during the pandemic. So here's an advertisement I found online. I literally just went to Google and typed in Microsoft Teams. And remember, advertisements don't have to be like big fancy things. Like sometimes they can be simple, and that's what this is. So obviously, you see here, it's for Microsoft Teams. It has the logo, and then it says Microsoft Teams here. That's actually the only like brand recognition or brand mention. You don't see any other like actual like words listed anywhere else. Just the Microsoft Teams in the middle. If I'm looking through like what's happening here, I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people, and they're all in different locations, and you can sort of tell by looking at the background of each picture. They're not together, but they're all like positions, like they are together, sort of like facing each other, and they're all on computers, and it looks like they're all working. I imagine that they're a part of some team together. Maybe not, but I'm just assuming they are, because Microsoft Teams is the name of the platform. So I'm noticing that these people are not together physically, but they're working in a way that looks like they're together, like because they're all facing each other, and they're on technological devices, laptops that are probably connecting them somehow with each other. I'm also noticing there's other people in the background that are either on Microsoft Teams or not on Microsoft Teams, but they're there. So these people are in public for the most part. Some may be by themselves, like in their apartment, but some people are in public engaging in on the Microsoft Teams platform. I'm noticing a gender breakdown. It looks like just, from appearance, people don't always appear, their gender may not be as they appear, but from what I'm seeing, looks like 3 women and 3 men potentially. And they all look relatively younger. It's hard to predict someone's age just by looking at a photo, but it doesn't look like anyone's like over 40 or over maybe 45 or 50, I'd say. Not that that's old or anything, but I would say they're like young adults, maybe millennials, maybe a little bit older. I'm also noticing like a lot of vibrant colors like that pop, like there's yellow, red, green in the background, noticing some shrubbery, some plants in the background, so that person's outside. Yeah, that's like just a quick analysis of a quick overview of what I noticed just from first glance. So I did all that even before looking at the questions, but obviously I know the questions in my my mind because I prepared the lesson and we already went through them, but I didn't even talk about those questions yet. But let's talk about them now. This may guide my observation in a new way that I wasn't thinking about before, push me in a new direction. So the first question is, what was the advertisement selling or marketing? And that's simple, like they're basically selling or marketing Microsoft Teams. I would say they're trying to sell it to people who don't currently use it, but maybe it's for also targeted to people that do use it, just to remind people how awesome it is. You don't actually have to see what's on their screen to know what they're doing. The fact that they're all like in different places, but like can all connect, is like the core of what Microsoft Teams is really trying to offer here. That it can bring a team together if they're not physically together. What emotions did the advertisement evoke? So I wrote a few. So joy. I mean, like they seem joyful. They all seem to have like a smile on their face. I feel like joy and happiness to know that like people can connect even if they're not together. You may not, but like I do. There's like a level of enthusiasm that the people have. Like they're not just like mindlessly, from my perspective at least, like just typing in. They actually seem like excited to be engaging in the work and enthusiastic about it. There's a level of satisfaction. It doesn't seem like they're just going through the motion. They seem actually like satisfied with what the platform's offering them. Because like I think everyone would probably say like in-face, person-to-person interaction is preferable, like for the most part, and it's something that we all want. But they seem satisfied. They're not just like settling. They seem satisfied with what the platform's offering. I mean, like no advertisement is going to make them look miserable, right? But it's clear that they do find value in what they're doing. I also have an emotion of curiosity. Like this makes me think about like, what can this platform actually do? Like I know that it brings people together, but I'm curious to learn more. Like what does the actual platform look like? Like can I engage with someone in a way that I maybe haven't been able to engage with someone before virtually? It's also evoking an emotion of like nostalgia, just because I do like, even though this does make me happy for the most part and like excited, it does make me think about like the time we're in, which is natural, and our pandemic, and how like interactions in person like aren't going to happen anytime soon, haven't been happening, right? And so it makes me a little bit nostalgic for like how times used to be, because even though they're like engaging Microsoft Teams together, there's still people around, so clearly they're not in quarantine. So this makes me feel a little bit nostalgic and like miss the time when we could be in person. But I know that I'm hopeful that day will come just once everyone is safe. I'm taking the proper precautions. And then it also does give me a little bit of anxiety, like how long is this going to last? Like, is this the new normal? If this is the new normal, I'm totally fine with it, but I just need to like wrap my mind around it. It's a mindset shift. It's not what we're used to. It does give me a little bit of anxiety, not because like Microsoft Teams is a bad platform, but it just makes me think about the world that we're living in, and does make me a little bit anxious. But overall, this evokes positive emotions. It would make me, if I didn't know anything about Microsoft Teams, it would make me a little bit more curious to learn more. What techniques did the advertisement use? They used imagery, like literal imagery, like it's just images, right? There like sometimes advertisements are words or very few images. Like this advertisement is like really centered around the images of the people. Vibrant colors, as I said before, like it's intentional that they wanted this to pop, because like the Microsoft Teams logo pops, right? It's 4 different colors in the square. So like all the people in, not even just what they're wearing, but like their background, there's all these different colors that are coming together. And like colors tend to make people feel like happier. and they make people feel like a little bit more excited because, you know, even in stories when the setting is very dull or dark, that sort of corresponds with like characters being sad, but I would say the colors here evoke happiness. They're using like an interesting angling technique. So basically, like, no one's facing the same position per se. Like, you know, it's all like they're all facing different ways, with the exception of like the two that are sort of, you know, everyone is sort of like angled. Two people are sort of facing similar ways, not the same way, but facing each other. But it's interesting because while they're all sort of in their own like individual angle, it comes together because of the way the images were fit together. And I think that's intentional. They're trying to angle them to make it seem like even though you're not in the same space, you could this platform could bring you together and fit everyone together like a puzzle. Diversity, gender diversity, as I mentioned before, is evident. It looks like there's diversity of race. Again, you can't really assume someone's race just by looking at them, but if I had to just make a quick guess, it does seem like there's a diversity in race. You know, age, I think they're all around the same age for the most part. So it's hard to say, you know, if there's diversity in age. There could be diversity in location, like location in terms of like some people are inside and some people are outside, but we don't necessarily know where like they are in the world. They all could be in the same city, same state, outside of the country, across the world. We don't know. Simplicity. So this is an intentional technique that a lot of marketers use. So it's simple. There's not too much happening here. Like, we're talking a lot about it because, you know, we love to analyze things, and that's the purpose of this lesson. But like, if I'm just like coming across an advertisement, I'm going to see in Microsoft Teams, I'm going to see people on a computer connecting, and that's at the core of what they want to get across. So they didn't do too much. They tried to make it simple, and that also sort of mirrors like Teams is simple. They want you to think Teams is simple. It's not that elaborate. And then it's challenging archetypes. And what I mean by that is like people have an archetype of like what a team is, and you know, probably before the pandemic, people thought a team was, for the most part, is one that meets it together in person. And they have like a personal connection, human connection. These people may have met before in person together, and maybe they haven't, but like I would say that this is sort of breaking down the archetype of what the word team is, because they're saying you can still be very team-like even if you're not together. And the platform, Microsoft Teams, provides you with a lot of interesting ways to connect. So it's challenging this archetype of like what a team has to be. It shouldn't have to be that. It can be anything we want it to be, and Teams is proving that. Who is the target audience? You could really make a case for anyone, but I definitely think professionals, because it's, without knowing what's on their computer screen, it seems like they're working like, you know, on something like for work related. It could also, the target audience could be students, especially now during digital learning. Like, a lot of students are using platforms like Teams, like you all are, or Zoom or other things, you know, that other districts and schools are using. Young adults, millennials. I only say that because it does look like the majority of people on here are young adults and millennials, and the computers they have sort of, I think those computers are marketed towards millennials too, because they're like portable and savvy, and you can like take them off and draw on them, and they're creative. So that, I think it also does connect with that the target audience is tech savvy people too, because everyone can learn how to use Microsoft Teams, but you do have to be a little bit savvy to use all the features of it. So they could be advertising this or marketing this to like everyone, but you know, you don't want to make your advertisement as a marketer too broad, because then people won't see themselves in it. But you do run the risk of alienating people. So I imagine that Microsoft Teams has other advertisements that maybe feature older people or feature non-professional people, just maybe a family, because they want that audience to know it's for them too. But for this advertisement specifically, I think they're definitely targeting a specific audience, which is the audience that I described here. And then the last step, and what you'll have to do with your own advertisements, is the reflection question. Were the advertisements trying to suggest that buying the products will lead to more happiness? Do you think they will be more effective with kids or adults? Why? And here's my answer to that. I do believe this advertisement was trying to speak to happiness. In a time of such uncertainty, people are looking for ways to connect, and this advertisement shows that it's possible to connect with other people even if you aren't physically with them. This advertisement does have the possibility of connecting with both adults and kids, since many kids are using platforms like this in virtual schooling, But overall, I think it will speak to adults more, specifically professionals who often collaborate with others for their day-to-day job. So for that first part of the question, just to reiterate, I do think it is trying to promote happiness and speak to happiness, because we're all going through a time where, things are uncertain and people aren't happy for many legitimate reasons. But this is showing us that, like, even if we can't be together, we can still be happy, connect with each other, whether for work or not, and feel like we're being productive too. And the second part of the question is, do you think it's more effective with kids or adults? I would say with adults more. Could be effective with kids because of virtual schooling and using platforms like this, but for the most part, I would say this is more effective with adults because we see adults here, and this, you oftentimes connect with what you see, and if you're represented, you may connect with them more, and so I would say for the most part, this is connected to adults. So now it's your turn to go and do the same as that process with 2 separate advertisements. So make sure you find some advertisements that are worthy of analysis. And then don't forget to read the rest of the lesson plan, just to remind yourself of all the things you have to complete for today. So let's talk about the upcoming learning. So obviously we are going to go into the weekend, and then next week we will start week 8 lessons with lesson 34. The learning target is, I can complete first read annotations to help with comprehension and future analysis of the text. No surprise here, it's the first lesson of the week, so we're going to be reading a brand new text and engaging in a first read. And the text is called A Dose of What the Doctor Never Orders. It's a great text. I say that about all the texts, but I really mean it about this one. I really mean it about all of them too, but this one's a great one. I think you'll enjoy it. As always, thank you for learning with me today. Just a few quick reminders. Don't forget to talk about your lesson with someone. Read 20 minutes and complete a reading log entry. The reading log is at the front of your packet. And practice reading fluency using the first or second page of your weekly reading. So the reading for this week can be used for your fluency work. And if you forgot what to do for fluency, go to the front of your packet and there's information there. And as always, email your teacher for support if you have any questions. Thank you. Have a great day. And remember, keep learning.